Cheyenne Jackson, welcome to An Actor's Affairs. How are you doing?
Woo! Today, there's shit going down at the Capitol right now that I just heard about. So I'm trying to like
Oh no, is it? Are they staging a
compartmentalize.
coup?
Oh, they've apparently people have broken. It's a whole thing right now.
Oh
It's,
my
it's
God,
all
man!
happening as we speak. But
I had so much
um,
hope this morning when it looks like both are going to win in Georgia, and
yeah,
then I heard about that, and I was like, I've been prepping with your stuff, and I just was like, my friend Shea Wiggum. Do you know actor Shea Wiggum?
mm-mm.
But he texted me, and he was like saying the same thing, so it must be really bad.
It's bad. It's
Yeah,
bad right now. But
yeah.
I'm here now. We're gonna be here. How am I doing? It's good. I mean, this whole year has been a meditation in out of my control.
Yeah,
Out of my control.
and exercise and how to even try to attempt to maintain mental health, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my husband and I live in the Hollywood Hills in California. His mother lives with us, and we have two kids. We have 4.5-year-old twins.
Oh,
Um,
congrats.
thanks. And it is every single day is it takes everything I have to
Yeah,
get through every
I
sinking
can't
day.
imagine. Yeah.
And it's what it is. We all have our things that we're dealing with, but yeah, being a parent right now to 4.5-year-olds who want to know why they can't go out
Oh,
and
that breaks my
you know
heart.
it's yeah, but kids can handle a lot. The kids can,
Yeah.
if you're honest with them, they understand. But it's
Yeah, they are tenacious, and sometimes the best and worst ways, but I never thought of it that way. That's very interesting to hear that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
well,
But I'm
you,
good. Good.
this is kind of helping me. I hope it just kind of connecting, and I love that. But I have to say, man, you're one of the greatest performers in the world. I think when the history books are written, you're going to be one of like the Frank Sinatra, but like quadruple threat of acting, film, TV, straight. I mean, you're just one of the most gifted performers I've ever seen in my life. And I
Wow.
have so much immense respect and gratitude for what you do, not only on musicals, but everything I've seen you in, man. I would kill, as an actor, I would kill to have 1/100th of an ounce of your talent.
That
It's,
is, well, that is so unbelievably generous of you. Um, thank you.
I mean every word of it. I
Thank you for saying
sincerely
that.
do, Cheyenne. And so, but before we dig into the work, let's start at the
Yeah.
beginning. You were
Yeah.
born in Washington, but grew up in Idaho, right?
Right. I grew up in a little town right on the border, right on the Ponderay River runs through Washington and Idaho. So yeah, I was born in Spokane, Washington, and then grew up in this little town called Newport, Washington, Old Town, Idaho. 1,200 people in the town.
Wait, the town was called Newport, Washington, but it's in Idaho? Oh,
It's basically two little mill towns.
got it.
There's one blinking red light. It's one of those things you drive through on the way to
Wow.
Coeur d'Alene or Spokane. But yeah, so I grew up in right there. Um, yeah, teeny little town, 1,200 people, very uh, Republican and white, and 30 miles from the Aryan Nation compound outside of Coeur d'Alene.
Oh my
Um,
God.
uh, so yeah, being a little queer kid in northern Idaho in the early 80s was tricky. And I always felt different. I always felt like these were not my people. This was
Yeah.
not where I belonged, but here I was. Um, and
Yeah.
early on, well, I also grew up very, very poor, I should say, because it really kind of started my whole, I think those early years are so important, and how you view the world, how you view
Yeah.
possession things. We had no running water. We had like an outhouse. We grew our own vegetables, and we had two goats. I mean,
Wow.
we really lived off the land, and it was in one sense it was kind of a bucolic, kind of gorgeous way to start your formidable years, but in another sense, I always felt poor and
Yeah.
like, how come I don't have all the stuff that the neighbors have? But early on, I found music.
Were you aware of that identity wise at a young age? Did you know that, or did you not know that till later, that it wasn't,
Not know what.
like the poverty, the intenseness
Oh,
of it all?
I think as a young kid, I definitely that
Yeah.
I didn't want for anything necessarily. My parents did a great job of of keeping, we had food on the table. We definitely wasn't hungry, but I wore my older brother's clothes, and we didn't get all the new stuff, and it was yeah, definitely a sense of, why don't we have what the
Yeah, of course.
Arthurs have up the road? But things started to change. I was a very kind of a shy, introspective kid, and then I realized I had a musical gift, and music became kind of my escape.
Wow.
And I would go to yard sales around the neighborhood and such, and find
Like vinyls?
records first, and then CDs or tapes.
Oh, cassettes. Yeah, that's total 80s. Yeah.
And I found a cassette that said Billy, Ella, Lena, Sarah. Billie Holiday, Lena Horne, Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald. I didn't know who any of these women were, but it blew my mind. And I would sit in my room and mimic these voices. And then my dad loved classic rock, and he loved Roy Orbison and Elvis. Then my mom loved Joni Mitchell and Joan Baez and Judy Collins. So there was always these
awesome amalgamation of
tons of, yes,
yeah.
Music was always in the house, and it was, I think, the biggest gift my parents gave me, because I just always had the sense of creativity in music. And I definitely showed a lot of promise early on singing. The first time a teacher really pointed it out to me, I was 13, and Mr. Caldwell, in 8th grade, he's like, oh, no, you have something special. And that's kind of when I thought maybe this is going to be what I'm going to spend my life doing. And also, really more immediate, this is what's going to get me out of this little town.
Yeah.
In 8th grade that same year, Les Mis came to Spokane in a touring production, and we went on a field trip.
Oh, that's so great.
On the bus, and we signed parent-teacher consent forms because there were prostitutes in the show.
Right.
And I remember sitting in the audience, and I'd never seen anything like it. And the curtain came up, and they were like, look down, da, da, da.
Yeah.
My brain, I just thought, what is happening? Who are these people? I can't believe that this is their job. I want this job. How can I make this happen? And I just, for the first time, saw a different possibility for myself, other than living in this town and working at the mill and getting married and having 9. It just wasn't. I just saw possibility for the first.
That's so beautiful. In this moment, was it so kinetic and electrifying that you knew, you say you knew this is what you were going to do, but that you started to systematically figure out a way?
Yeah, I don't think it was that clear, but there was definitely, the light bulb went on, and I thought, okay, I got to figure out what this theater thing is, and what is this acting thing, and because at this point it was all music.
It was all, yeah, okay.
But then I found out about doing plays, and found a local, I did my musicals in high school. Loved it. I got out on my first play at 15, and I said my first line, and the audience laughed. And I was
Were you doing straight plays as well, or just musicals?
No, it was just high school musicals.
Oh,
but we were doing Bye Bye Birdie, like every school does. And
did you play Conrad?
No,
really.
They wanted me to, for I think obvious reasons, but I wanted to play Albert because he was the funny guy.
Yeah,
he got to kiss the girl and do so no, I played the Dick Van Dyke part, and I remember singing and saying my first line, and I got a big laugh, and I just was like, oh, this is fun. This is a cool
that's amazing.
thing.
I love it.
And
I
Yeah.
did it in
So,
high school as well. I was so bad they put me in the chorus. But
so
that's
that,
awesome.
yeah. And then,
Were your parents receptive to this musical, endeavor? Like, because
yeah.
to be an artist, especially, coming, like, obviously the rewards can be great, but, not every parent sees that right away, So were they
My parents,
encouraging you to do choir and to do these things?
yeah. I mean, my mom, I think always wanted to be a performer, I think subconsciously, but she just, had kids young and lived in the woods. And so wasn't her path. So I think when I showed promise in that area, she definitely was excited for me. And I did the all state choirs and I did all the little show choirs and she and I got in a local choir and we would sing duets and it was
Oh, with
our
your mother?
yeah,
That's some of the
yeah,
best memories ever. That's awesome.
yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
But I think really more than anything, my parents just wanted all of us to be happy. Both of them come from, you know, they had rough childhoods and they found each other early on in life and they didn't go to college. And so I think they just, whatever we chose to have an interest in and really thrived in, they fostered that. My little sister always just wanted to be a teacher and
Wow.
she's a teacher. And my brother always wanted to be a pastor and he's a pastor.
Wow.
And for me, I knew it was going to be something. I knew I had to create art. I knew I had to tell stories and sing songs. And it's hard to monetize that. I didn't know how it was going to go.
Yeah,
It's
especially
logical.
in the '90s, even
Right.
Napster didn't exist. It was
Right.
like you were U2 or you were doing your hometown
Right.
town hall. And
Right.
so
Right.
I'm curious, systematically, when you were graduating high school, did you have a counselor that was like, you should go to a musical theater school or you should do regional theater, or were you just figuring this out yourself?
Our school was so small and it was so, I had like 65 people in my class, my graduating class. It wasn't, I never saw myself going to college. It never
Yeah.
really was in the cards for me. I just wanted to get out. I wanted to get out of the town and I wanted to start living my life. I was realizing I was gay. I was realizing I wasn't a Christian. I mean, I had these major things that I had to decide. I mean, I had gone on 3 mission trips with my church, grew up very, 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 very Christian. So there were huge things I had to face before, college wasn't even, I was like, I got to just like first figure out who I am.
Yeah.
And then we'll figure out the career thing. So yeah, the first step for me in all of that was coming out. I came out at 19 to my family, to everybody. Super tough back then. It was, it was tough for everybody involved.
Yeah.
But then I heard about this summer stock theater.
I applaud you, because that's now it's a very different time, and
Yep.
it's much so to do that is, I mean, it's profound bravery, and I really I have so much respect for you for doing that so young. It's so beautiful, and for all those listening, I think it really helps them accept who they are is who they are.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was tough times, but I listened to my heart and I found a local gay volleyball league in Spokane, and we were called Safe Sets, SECS. Punny, huh?
That's great, man.
And I was in a gay youth group, and I hadn't ever been around other queer people, so for the first time, I felt a part of something. And then right after that, I found this summer stock in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, did this summer stock theater where they did 4 shows in a span of,
Oh, wow.
2 months.
That's a lot for a summer.
And 2 months. And it absolutely blew my mind. Everybody was a misfit. We were, it was just, I call it like my circus folk, my carnies. We were all, I don't know if you're allowed to say that anymore. But
of course you are, whatever.
I'd never been around people of color. I'd never been around lesbians. I'd never been around. I mean, it
A
was so
radical
eye-opening.
exposure of culture.
A radical exposure of culture, and also just truly for the first time feeling like this is where I'm supposed to be. This is my
Yeah.
family. This is going to be my expression of art. And I hit the ground running, and I did every show I could do. And when I was in the ensemble, when I wasn't on stage, I was in the wings, and I was watching the people that were doing the leads, and I just was a sponge, and I wanted to learn everything. And my biggest gift was, I mean, I looked the way I looked, so that was half of the battle. But
One of the most beautiful men in the world, if I do say so.
You're very kind.
And
I think because I was surrounded by so much music growing up, I could sing low Elvis music up to crazy rock stuff, and I could sing like a woman. I could sing all the styles, because growing up I would mimic everything.
Yeah.
And I didn't have voice lessons, but I kind of had all the voice lessons, if you know what I mean.
Well,
So,
this really leads perfectly into my next question. Is
yeah.
one of the most important things I talk about on this podcast is literally finding your voice.
Yep.
And was this summer stock, the summer where you feel like you started to find it, or do you feel like you already had a grounding?
No, I mean, I knew that I knew I had something special. I knew that when I would sing, or when I would step into a role and put on a costume and stand in front, it was a transcendent kind of experience for me. And I always had a lot of social anxiety. I always had a lot of, the voice in my head telling me I wasn't good enough, and I was going to hell, or all the stuff that I would like. When I was performing, it was so safe, and it was just so easy. There was something about it. I thought, well, this is so, yeah, I definitely found my voice there, and I knew what I needed to do. And then I just thought, now I just got to keep continuing that, however long it takes to get where I need to go. I didn't, at that point, I knew what Broadway was, but that was so far beyond my
3,000 miles away,
And I just thought, I mean, I didn't go to school. I'm not just going to go right to Broadway at 19. I'm not in a conservatory. I didn't know how to tap dance. So I just thought, I'm just going to go move to Spokane, and I'm going to live with some friends, and I'm just going to start living my life and just do theater. So that's kind of what I did until.
Did you have a mentor at all?
Not then. No, right. I just really kind of wanted to get away from my little hometown, find my own identity, and have fun as a young adult, and go out and fall in love and meet people. And I fell in love with a guy, and I followed him to Seattle. So I ended up in Seattle, and I was about.
You were doing a lot of repertory work, right?
Yeah, and I was at 23. I got my equity card in Seattle, and I worked at the Village Theater, and then I worked at a health club, and then I worked at a magazine, and I worked at a bank, all while doing theater.
Oh my God.
And kind of became like a local theater
town hero. Yeah.
I did all the plays and all the musicals, and then at that point I was almost 27. Wow. And I was just kind of living my life, and had a boyfriend, and was working, but I hadn't gone to New York. I hadn't done anything. And I kind of thought I had missed my window, because I thought, well, I mean, what am I going to move to New York at 27 and just start? But two things happened. 9/11 happened. And also we had a death in our family. My brother's daughter died.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
Both of those, thank you. And both of those major moments just lit a fire in me, and really kind of just made me realize about the finite nature of our lives and how quickly it goes. And I'd already mortality, but even more so, just not wanting to miss out and not wanting to regret anything. So, people my whole life have said, "Oh, you should move to New York. You do so great there." But that was just, I thought, oh, they're just saying that. But when both of those things happened, I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I think this is my time to do this. So I had one friend in New York, who said, he had come and toured through a show.
Oh, a fellow performer.
He was a performer.
Yeah.
What would happen in Seattle is they would bring in Broadway performers in these local touring productions, and then they would cast local talent as the ensemble.
Wow.
And then they cast me, and I was a guard. It was The Prince and the Pauper.
Okay.
Not a good musical, but
touché. Yeah.
And then they and I was cast as this guy's understudy, and his name's Mark Kudish. He's a big Broadway star and a wonderful actor. And he said, "Hey, if you ever move to New York, give me a call, and I'll hook you up with my agent." And he was cool, and he was straight, and I could tell he didn't want anything.
There was no hidden agenda. Yeah.
No, he was cool. And so when this happened and I decided to do it, I was like, hey, Mark, remember me? Like, yeah. I told him, I'm in town. I just got into town, and I don't know anybody, and I don't have pictures yet, but I'm here, and I'm ready to rock. So he hooked me up with his agent, and that next day I went in and I read a scene for them and sang a couple of songs, and they signed me. And the very first audition that they sent me out on was for Thoroughly Modern Millie on Broadway.
And you got it, right? As the understudy.
I booked it. Yeah, I was in the ensemble, and I had been in New York for a little less than 3 weeks, and I was
wow.
And Thoroughly Modern Millie.
You gotta clap for that, man. That's not easy to do, brother.
when I think about it,
I've been here for 11 years. I'm going in for like procedurals.
Dude, I mean, it is not lost on me that is not a normal story. But I also feel like I paid my dues in so many other ways.
Totally.
I had already lived a life filled with experience and so much pain.
Yeah.
And I brought something to the table. The voice in my head that for so long said, you didn't go to NYU, and you don't know how to do a time step, so you're not going to be able to compete.
You had no dancing experience at all, really?
No, at all.
Wow.
None at all. But I am somebody who is malleable, and I am open.
Yeah.
I'm open to coaching, and I'm open to learning, and I've always wanted to be a student of everything.
Yeah.
And so I remember in the final callbacks for that, because they needed somebody, thankfully, they needed somebody who looked kind of young and kind of old, and that's always been me. At 16, I looked 40, and now in my 40s,
you look 16.
People are like, how old are you? So, but they needed somebody also who could sing low baritone and high tenor. And I'm like, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
I can do both. But I remember in the final callback, we had to do a time step. And I said, I don't have any tap shoes. Can I just do it in my shoes? I didn't have any tap shoes because I didn't know how to tap. And
Capezios or whatever they're called.
Right. Yeah, I just had boots on or something.
Yeah.
They thought my name was fake. They're like, Cheyenne Jackson, really? And I said, yeah, that's my dad named me after a TV show in the 50s, and here I am. It was just, anyway, I keep going off, but in the last final callback, it was me and two other guys, and Rob Ashford, the choreographer, said, okay, everybody just do a time step. And I was like, oh shit, the jig is up. I won't be able to fake that because I don't know what that is. And the first guy's like, perfect.
Oh my God. It's just, I've seen those guys,
man. Man.
And so like,
the second guy does his little, and it comes to me, and I don't even try. I just said, listen, I don't tap, but if you hire me, I will learn. I promise.
Yeah.
And Rob came up real close to me and said, "You better." And
Wow, man, that must
they
have been
hired
such a
me.
cool moment.
They hired me. It was amazing. And I went right to Broadway Dance Center the next day, and I was taking tap alongside 5-year-old girls, going
Yeah.
flap step, and I did what I had to do.
That's
So
so amazing,
that's how
Cheyenne.
that all started.
Do you remember that moment, like when you got that first part very well?
Yeah, I mean, I remember what sticks out in my head is my opening night on Broadway. So I was in the ensemble, and I don't really remember my opening night in the ensemble. It was all such a blur. But 2 weeks later, I had to go on for the lead of the show,
Yeah.
who got cast in the opera. So I was going on for somebody who had just been nominated for a Tony and was an incredible performer. And I remember, Sutton Foster had just won the Tony, and here I am doing scenes with her. It was just so out of body. And I remember I was playing Trevor Graydon, who's this big bombastic, character, and my feet were up on the desk, and it was this turntable, and I was still in New York by myself. I didn't have my boyfriend wasn't there yet. My family certainly wasn't there. So
were they thrilled for you that you were working?
So thrilled, but
yeah.
No one was there for me. And I just remember thinking, like, I'm on the turntable, and I'm like, it's turning, and I'm like, in 5 seconds, the lights are going to come up, and I'm going to have to say, "John," or whatever my first line was. And I'm like, this is broad. I was just thinking, like, remember this moment. And I kind of rose out of my body for a second and just kind of took it all in, and then back in. Lights came up. Here comes Sutton Foster, and then we do the scene, and it's just like,
that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I feel like we could do 4 hours on your Broadway and your theater career. So you have a resume that is one of the finest resumes I have ever seen. But for, so we can get to the film and TV stuff as well.
Yeah.
Let's dig into ones that you like the most. But I think we have to, because it was your first leading role, is All Shook Up, correct?
Right. So I did Throw the Modern Millie for a while, and then I did Aida for a while, and then All Shook Up. They were looking for somebody to play Elvis.
And did that feel crazy, just going back to your childhood to call back?
It was one of those moments where I thought, there is no one who's going to be able to do this like me. All ego aside, I just thought they gotta give me.
I'm gonna call Baz Luhrmann. I can't believe he didn't cast you in the film.
Right? So, I grew up listening to that music, but I really was still an unknown, and it was a $12 million musical, and I know they were like, who's
you got to have the politics of drawing,
all that stuff, and the guy that they were gonna cast, he had already won a Tony in something, and so it was a whole thing. But I jumped through the hoops, and I did the thing, and it was that was my big debut, and creating something, and it was wild. And again, I just tried to be present and to enjoy it. There was a billboard of my face, 5 stories tall in Times Square, and Priscilla Presley gave me a guitar on opening night. And
no way.
Lisa Marie Presley said, my dad would be proud, and it was just like, it was blowing my mind. It was awesome.
Did you have a moment of just thinking back to that Les Mis play in high school, of being like,
always?
Yeah.
I always. I am so glad that I grew up the way I did, where I did, and got to where I got the way I got there, if that makes sense, because everything is just gravy. Everything is precious. Everything that happens to me, I just relish so much. All Shook Up, and then I did a few other plays. I was doing Damn Yankees with Sean Hayes and Jane Krakowski, and then Tina Fey came backstage to visit Jane, and
that got you 30 Rock,
right?
Yeah.
She said, I like your big Midwestern face and your comic timing. It's very specific, very Tina. And I said, thank you. And she said, I have a part on 30 Rock. I just want to gauge your interest. Yeah. that's how that happened. And I
Wow.
said, well, it's high. My interest is surging.
I think I'm available.
And, I was scared to death because, again, that voice in my head saying, like, who are you to be doing scenes with Alec Baldwin and some of our greatest, comedians. But somebody saw something in me that maybe I didn't see. So I just thought, I'm going to do this. Luckily, they wrote something where I was a brand new performer and didn't know what I was doing, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what marks were or camera left and right.
So even when you got this all shook up and all this, you weren't really doing film TV stuff yet?
Nope.
Wow.
Nope. I mean, I had done a guest spot on like Ugly Betty. I had done, I did a pilot with Beau Bridges and Ann Archer as my parents, a family of lawyers. It was terrible. That didn't go. But no, I hadn't ever done anything of note, and definitely nothing that was, more than a couple of weeks. So it was really daunting. And I remember my very first scene on 30 Rock. It was the scene where Danny meets the whole cast.
Yeah.
And normally on 30 Rock, the whole cast is usually not together. But in this instance, they were all together to meet the new character. And it was very meta because I was meeting most of them in the scene.
Wow.
And I had a long walk and I had to hit a mark and, without obviously staring at it, and say my lines and basically just not fuck it up. Right.
Yeah, totally.
And I remember taking a breath. I'm like, okay, here we go. I do this and I walk and I hit it and I overshot my mark a little bit. And so I was kind of in, Alec's way. And I was casting.
He was my teacher.
Was he?
Yeah. So the first thing he said to me, he goes, "You look like an on-call English prostitute." I was like, "All right."
Oh my God, I love it. I love Alec, and I learned so much from him. But I was very intimidated by him because his energy is very
for
direct.
Sure, yeah.
And he put his hand on me and he said, "You're in my light," and he moved me out of the way. And he became, probably unbeknownst to him, but he was my mentor because I watched him and I learned from him. As who has worked with him, he's a master.
Yeah,
he
really is. I don't think people realize how intelligent he is.
Incredible.
Oh, yeah.
And they would give him huge chunks of brand new rapid fire dialogue, and he would be like, okay. And then he would hit it beat by beat, give you 3 different takes on it throughout, like just all these subtle changes, hit 3 different marks, all like without breaking a sweat. I mean, it was incredible.
Did you ever get to work with Dean Winters? He's a friend.
Oh yeah. No, we were in same episodes, but we never had anything together. But I dig him.
He's the brother. He was one of my first guests on the show.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. So
awesome.
Was 30 Rock in some ways the impetus for you to start pursuing more of that work?
Yeah, definitely. Because I loved the pace. I loved the variety.
Yeah.
I get bored easily and I like to do a lot of different things. And on 30 Rock, everything was like about, changing it up. And today you're going to be.
Were you doing plays at night in 30 Rock during the day?
Yeah, there was a whole season where I was doing 30 Rock in the day. And then at night I was doing the revival of Finian's Rainbow.
Wow.
Which was nuts. And I would never do that again.
Because I mean, just a worldwide exhaustion,
Just, I couldn't be present. I remember my leading lady, Kate Baldwin, who was so delicious in that revival. I was doing my best to be, my brain was so fried by the end of the day. And we made it through and it was a great revival, but I much prefer to do one thing at a time.
Yeah.
But after that, I thought, I love the pace. Obviously, money. You make much more money in television, and ultimately, I just want to keep doing live theater. So if you do more television, then you'll be
that builds you up to do And so were you pursuing at a certain point now straight plays as much as musicals?
I was dying to do a straight play. I was dying to do a comedy. I was dying to do something where I wouldn't have to be so careful with my voice and just, living in New York, always just, you see your friend across the street and you're like,
vocal rest.
Vocal rest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then I did
Dustin
uh,
Lance Black's piece, was that your first one, or?
I that was just a one-off, but my first Broadway play was The Performers.
Oh, with Alicia
Um,
Silverstone.
right. And
Yeah.
Henry Winkler and Ari Grainer, and we closed in, I think
Yeah, that one got really, I remember that one quite well because it got hurt by Sandy, right?
Sandy came in, and we didn't have a big pre-sale, and the reviews were mixed. I mean, we personally got good reviews, but it was so raunchy,
Yeah.
and there were just so many, like, you know, we were playing adult film stars, so
Yeah.
it was a specific thing. But yeah, that was a bummer. But I loved. I made some lifelong friends in that, and Ari Grainer is the
Yeah.
best.
Oh, and so
The
at this point, are you starting to maybe explore LA as like, a place to go, or are you still just so New York commitment?
I was had my eye on LA. I mean, I had people saying, like, you really, I think if you're gonna give this a go in the long run, you have to be more available. You can't be
Yeah.
attached to a show for a long time. And yeah, so I was going back every year. I was doing pilot season. I would get a pilot. I think I did 9 pilots. None of them ever went, and it was just a constant back and
Yeah.
forth until
Spin
my
class with Ryan Murphy.
you've done your research.
Yeah, I've done my research.
So, well, I had done Xanadu on
Yeah.
Broadway,
Yeah.
and I met Ryan doing that, and then I had auditioned for Glee, for Mr. Shu, and didn't get that, obviously. But Ryan just became a fan, a friend,
Yeah.
whatever, and
One of
liked
the
my
best.
stuff. And yeah, I was out. Let me see, when I was okay. So my relationship had ended in New York. I got a divorce. I got sober.
Congratulations. I just hit
Thank
4
you.
years. That's
I love it.
huge. I'm curious, if it's
Yeah.
okay if I ask you this,
Yeah.
because this is why I have so much respect for you is, especially in the 90s, coming out was totally different landscape, but more so even in the early 2000s and in 2010s, I mean, Quino didn't come out for a while because you, as becoming a gay man, then suddenly Hollywood sees you as only that,
Mhm.
that were you aware of that?
Yes.
Were you only going out for certain things and you're like, what the fuck,
Uh, I've never put myself in a box,
Yeah.
and I think because of how I come across physically, it helped that I didn't. I would never put myself in a box, and I wasn't going to let anyone else put me in a box. So when All Shook Up happened, the New York Times did a feature on me,
Yeah.
and I thought, "Ooh, this is my moment to talk about this." I mean, at that point, I was 29. I'd been out for 10 years, but my management at the time, they were kind of like, maybe let's don't not say it, but maybe
Yeah.
don't say it. And I was like, fuck that.
Yeah. Fuck you. I
I
am who
am
I.
not going to live a life of just being like pronoun non-specific and
Yeah.
try to like not say it, and just no, 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 no. I work too hard to be comfortable with who I am to not just be open. So
So much respect for that.
thanks, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a conscious choice. Yeah, it was different back then. Yeah, this was before, Neil Patrick Harris came out, and before
Anderson Cooper.
Anderson
Yeah.
Cooper,
Yeah.
Jim Parsons, and all of my buddies now. Like, it was different. So it was a little risky. And
Yeah.
Matt Bomer hadn't come out, and I wasn't on their level, so it wasn't like, but I don't know what kind of effect it had, and I really didn't care. All I
Yeah.
knew is,
Well, it worked out beautifully because you got like 5 seasons of American Horror Story.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, Ryan always just obviously does his own thing and beats to his own drum. And I was out in LA, and we were. I'd never taken a spin class before. I would walk by and I'd hear everybody screaming in the room. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know if that's for me. But he's like, let's take a spin class. So we took a class, and then while we're in there, he said, over the music, he's like, "Hey, I want you to be on the next season of Horror Story." I never saw myself on that show.
Did you know the show?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And I only started watching it on, I think it was the fourth one, the Freak Show season.
Oh, yeah.
So
I used to work at the box, and they got a lot of performers from the box.
Whew.
Yeah.
It was so intense, and Jessica Lange's Elsa Mars still haunts me. I mean, it was just gothic and crazy, and I just had never seen anything like it. But I never saw myself on that. But I mean, I liked watching it. But yeah, he said, "I want you to be on this season of Horror Story." I'm thinking, so you'll be married to Lady Gaga, and you're going to be
one of the biggest seasons ever.
I'm like, what? What'd you say? Like, what? I thought I hadn't heard him, and that's how that happened. And
speaking of music, was it wonderful working with her?
Well, first of all, I was a huge fan of hers. Like, I had seen her many times in person, even before she was filling stadiums, like in smaller venues. So I was really, really nervous, really excited. I wanted to be able to be open and be myself, but like, there's a certain kind of stardom that kind of transcends everything else. Like, everyone else was also very nervous and excited when she was on set, and I was like, "Oh shit, am I gonna be married to her?" And
not a bad choice if you got to swing straight.
No, I mean, and they said you were going to be, having naked scenes with her. I mean, it was wild. So I remember my first day meeting her. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go introduce myself before we, have this read. And I went around the corner, and she was already dressed as the Countess, and she was all in character, and she put her hand out, and she said, "Hello, Will Drake." And I was like, oh shit, she's like
method
in character right now. Yeah. Am I gonna have to? I kind of wasn't into it.
I wouldn't be either.
And I kind of bent down to like kiss her hand or something, and she's like, "I'm just kidding. You can call me Stephanie." And she was fucking with me. And she ended up being the coolest. She's like a theater girl.
Yeah.
She's like a New York.
She went to NYU. I went to NYU. So, that's what
is rad. I remember was really struck by just how open, and she would say, like, "You guys," to everybody, like, I don't know, I don't know what I'm doing yet. So if I'm in the wrong place, just tell me and help. She was just so open to learning. And that was so incredible. And
right before a Star's born, right? That's kind of what led to it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was amazing. So
for the actors listening, if you don't mind, I know it's an intense question, but I think we can get to it pretty simply. Yeah. For acting for musicals, for plays, and film and TV, how would you describe how your process is different for each one?
Sure. For me, I have to be able to find a way to make, first of all, just find a way in. I have to find a way to make the character come to life.
Yeah.
Before I think about anything else, before I think about how he's going to sound, how he's going to move, I have to find a way in. And that's obviously true for any kind of scene work. With the medium of the three, the medium of theater, obviously, is you have to convey an emotion, but people way in the back have to be able to see what you're doing without seeing you up close.
Yeah.
So you have to obviously have some kind of physicality or some kind of something that will transcend and build to the back, go to the back of the house. It's about, for me, it was a calibration that I had to just, I took camera classes, and I just wanted to see what I was like on camera. And my first couple classes were nuts. I had no idea.
The way that it hits you, it's so different than you ever expect. Especially
what you think you're doing and what you think is coming across. I remember like watching, you take an on-camera class and you're doing something, you're trying to just be present with your scene partner, and then you watch it, and I was like, I look crazy. I was so big. I already have big features.
Yeah, because everything reads so much bigger. Like even if you just touch your shoulder, it's like, what are you doing?
so much. I remember I did a guest spot on something. It was this like Brooke Shields show. I can't remember the name of it. Lipstick Jungle.
Okay.
And they did a close up of my face, and I was thinking, it was one of my first TV things. And I remember the director saying, stop moving your eyes so much. And I was like, my eyes? What do you mean? And she brought me over and showed me a playback. And I was just thinking about something, but my eyes were moving around so much, and I have such big eyeballs, and the way they had the shot set up, it was just like, oh, it was too much happening.
Yeah.
And so I just learned to, I don't want to say dial it down, because you definitely still have the intent, and you still have what you want to get in any scene. Obviously, that's the basis. What do I want in a scene? But honestly, I learned that if you think it, the audience will get it. If you are authentically thinking it, they'll see it.
Yeah.
And it's just been a matter of practice. Film and television have been one and the same, because I've mostly done single camera. So it's set up exactly the same.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm only recently started multicam, and it's a whole different thing, but it's kind of straddling the two.
That's a good lead in. You know, I do want to ask about RuPaul's Drag Race before we go to Call Me Kat. How was that experience?
I love RuPaul. He has been a friend for years. And it's my favorite show. Yeah. It's my favorite television show for so many reasons. I love every season meeting, 13 queer people from across the country with all different stories and all different walks of life, all coming together to create this incredible art. I think it's genius, and I love it, and I get so invested. And anytime he asks me to do anything, I'm like, yes, I'm there.
And you also started creating your own music as well, and you've been nominated for a Grammy. Was that always the plan, to put out, an album or an EP? Or
music will always be a part of who I am, and I've always been a songwriter, and I've always fostered that side of myself, but it's never been something that I've pushed to the forefront, because acting has always kind of taken center stage. But over the pandemic, I started writing with some folks, and I think I'm going to start pursuing, well, I am, because we're shopping it, but writing for projects.
Amazing.
Writing for other artists, writing for.
So you got a great publisher then.
Yeah, it's a really fun, like, why not?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
totally.
So yeah.
Amazing. Well, then let's talk about Call Me Kat, and how's that come your way? And
well, I've been looking for something for years that I've been dying to do a multicam. I thought I had a hunch that it would be a good fit for my theatrical training, because it's a presentational medium, and it's also, you feed off a live audience.
Totally. Yeah.
And
were you able to have one during this?
No.
Or okay.
No, we're in the middle of shooting the first season. We're on episode 8. And no. So I've only ever done one guest spot on Will and Grace. That's the only multicam I've ever done.
Got it.
And it's a whole different thing.
Even the morning show, was that single cam?
Single cam, yeah.
Wow. Was that fun playing yourself?
You know what? To be totally honest, that was the biggest surprise. If they came to me and said, "Do you want to play a singer, a jazz singer in a scene?" And I, even though it was Jennifer Aniston's show, I kind of was like, not really.
Yeah.
No, I mean, is there anything? And they said, "Will you be playing yourself?" And I'm like, what? I could not wrap my brain around.
Was there a producer who's a big fan, or do you know how that came together?
I don't know, but I just know that I honestly could not wrap my brain around the fact that they could write in a scene that Cheyenne Jackson sings, and that people would know who that is, and that would be enough of a thing. I'm telling you, I think that's also part of. My husband always says, he's like, I like that you don't see yourself that way, because that would be really obnoxious if you did. But like, it blew my mind.
Takes you back to the Idaho humility.
Yeah, I think maybe. And then Jennifer Aniston was like, everybody everybody had a crush on her. I mean, we all grew up with her, and she
Yeah, of
looks
course.
exactly the same, and she's incredible. And she was, yeah. Anyway, so that was a single Kim.
Awesome. But how's it been going with? Sorry, I'm
No, yeah,
scatterbrained.
no.
Trying to get it all in to make
I hear
everyone
you.
happy.
No,
But
all good.
so Call Me Cat, has
Yeah.
it been tough doing it without an audience? Because comedy I think is the hardest thing in the world, because where a joke lands, I could do Shakespeare and I could do long monologues, but give me
Yeah.
like a comedic line and I'm like,
Comedy is serious business.
I think it should be an Oscar category. I think it's wrong.
Well, I don't ever think of something as like, how can I make this funny? What I learned on 30 Rock and what I learned on so many of my early projects is the comedy comes from the tragedy. The comedy comes from the fact that the person is taking something so seriously and the stakes are so high.
Yeah.
That the experience of that, it's not, if you want somebody to come out and just say a funny line and have a weird voice, that's not me. It's not,
yeah.
I want to find the truth of it. So
comedy is the overwhelming presence of tragedy. Like,
yeah,
40-year-old virgin is funny because he's a virgin and he's 40
Perfect.
and it's tragic.
I always use the 40-year-old virgin.
Me too, man.
Yes, same.
We're in sync here. I love it.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect example. Like he wasn't trying, he's just the situation. So I was looking for a multicam that was well written and that had a joy and that had that wasn't cynical. I was kind of come off of about 4 or 5 years of playing pretty cynical people, and it's kind of been my lane. I do, I've worked on these Descendants movie and Julie and the Phantoms, and playing
with the great Kenny Ortega, one of the
best.
Yes,
the great, and and I love playing, snide people. And on American Horror Story, I just got to, just really go there. But I think within this pandemic and being a dad and where we are in this world, for my soul and for my heart and really just for my art, I wanted to lighten it up and do something funny and beautiful. Sweet. And then this last year, this script came that said it's based on this BBC show, Miranda. I had never seen it. I immediately watched all the seasons, and I just thought, who's going to embody this in America? Because she's just such a specific, perfect human. And then they said it was going to be Mayim Bialik. I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Here's somebody who she is. And I knew, Mayim knows this now, but I have been stalking her from afar for years. We're exactly 6 months apart in age to the day. Since Beaches to everything in between, I just dig her, and I wanted to be a part of this.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm so happy that worked out for you.
Yeah. So we had a couple chemistry reads. I was in New York doing a film, and she was here.
Is LA home for you or New York?
LA.
Oh
yeah, LA.
Okay.
And we had a couple reads, and then I came out here, and I was back and I tested with her, and it was just, we started saying the words and looking at each other, and it was kind of an undeniable thing, I think. So as far as shooting right now, my experience is, this is a whole different world that we're shooting in, right? So we don't have a live audience.
And I imagine everyone's wearing masks on set, because I know LA is really, really struggling right now.
LA is ground zero.
Yeah.
I think the CDC said 1 in 6 people in Los Angeles County have it. So we've been on strict lockdown since March. My husband's mom is 79 and lives with us, and I have kids, and I'm not taking any chances. So we are absolutely locked down.
Yeah.
So the idea of working was terrifying, truly.
Yeah, very daunting.
But once we got the protocols and the testing, and then we figured out how it was going to go, we just started. So yeah, we're in full masks and PPE, 2 masks and a shield.
What you're doing the show in the pandemic?
All the way, yeah. And so right now we're shooting, And we're socially distanced. We touch our own props. Nobody touches our stuff. We have our own cubby. We are always distanced until, and that's testing every day and the whole
Yeah.
nine, until right before action. And then we take everything off, and the girls kind of have to touch their lipstick up because the makeup comes off on
Oh,
the
cool. So
mask.
you haven't incorporated the pandemic into the world.
No,
Okay,
no, it's going to
good.
stay.
I don't think we need that right now, you know?
No.
Yeah. Well,
And yeah, so then right before action, we take the masks off and we kind of see each other's faces for the first time and our mouths for it's bizarre, but
yeah.
I'm happy to be working and I'm happy to be on a show that is uncynical and joyful and people are loving it. So
Yeah. It's Sunday nights on which network?
it's Thursday nights
Thursday
on
nights.
Fox. Yeah,
Okay.
our debut was Sunday and it was lots of
That's
people
why I
watched.
thought.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then tomorrow night, well, when this airs, but it'll be Thursdays at 9 is our time slot. Yeah.
Amazing. So, final few questions for you. I'm so
Sure.
grateful for your time. You
Yeah.
know, what do you feel like, because we're in such a dark place with Broadway, do you feel like there's hope, for 2021, or do you I mean, it's no one knows, so I know there's no definitive answer, but obviously it has to come back.
I do have hope. I do have hope. I'm friends with a lot of Broadway producers, and I was talking to my friend Ken Davenport. He produced Altar Boys, which was
Yeah.
one of my first things I did in New York. And yeah, it's an art form that has survived so long, and it's just going to be a matter of changing and shifting to the times, and whether that means waiting till everybody's vaccinated or whether that means changing the medium and having theaters be in a different, I don't know what it's going to be, but we're going to get back. Absolutely. But it's been such a devastating thing for the Broadway community and for all of the businesses that rely on that revenue and it's a dark time.
It is.
It's a really dark time for people.
Well, this brings me to a lighter question. What's keeping you inspired?
My kids.
Yeah.
My kids I have 4.5-year-old twins, a boy and a girl, and their innocence and their resilience.
Yeah.
My husband and I we're very honest with them about the pandemic, about why we can't go out, about what's happening in the world, and just their ability to adapt and their ability to weather this. I don't know. I every time I get too introspective or start to go down a rabbit hole, one of them will run in the room. I'm sure in a minute one of them will. And it's I just remember, like, they're only going to be this age once. They're only going to be this small, and it's such a precious time. And I'll leave you with this. This is a perfect encapsulation of what I mean. They have homeschool here, right? So we have homeschool in our guest house, and I'm lucky enough to have this space, and it's so great. But normally in the daytime, I would be working. I would be shooting or running around and doing something, writing music, or, we're home now. If I'm on set, I'm on set. If I'm not, I'm here. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't go to the market. I don't go anywhere. The other day, it was cold. It was like at maybe 1 PM. The kids hadn't napped yet. And Ethan, my son, said, "Can we take a bath?" And I said, "Yeah, let's take a bath." And I have a big bathtub. And so me and my son and my daughter, we all got in the bath, and they've never taken a bath in the daytime. And I remember Willow looking out the window, and Ethan was looking out the window, and he was looking at me saying, "We're taking a bath in the daytime?" And his mind was so blown. And I just remember thinking, I'm so grateful for this moment and this time, because were we not in a pandemic, I would never be able to take a bath in the middle of the day with my kids. How beautiful. So beautiful. I'll never get this time back with them. And that is what I'm focusing on, just a day by day by day by day.
I don't think we could have a better ending than that one, brother. Cheyenne, I'm such a big fan. Thank you so much. Let's grab coffee when you're in New York, I got so much love and respect, and I'm looking forward to seeing you take over the world even more.
Thanks, man. I will say your generosity of spirit and your words. You can tell that you have a special thing going on here. So thank you for including me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And dinner on me when your next show opens.
Deal.
All right. So much love, brother.
You too.
All right. Take care.
Man. Yep.
I am thrilled to announce that An Actor Despairs is partnering with a wonderful CBD company called Kind Farms. Everyone out there has heard of CBD. I started taking it a few years ago when I first started getting sober and to help with my anxiety. Sadly, as one can do, I was overtraining in the gym, and a friend recommended a topical and a tincture to help with the pain. I tried it. It was okay. However, recently, I was introduced to a product that has really changed my life. Not only has it helped me with anxiety, but I am stronger than I have ever been. I'm able to carry out lifts my body used to prevent me from doing. Kind Farm products have single-handedly changed my life athletically and personally. They utilize 100% local licensed farmers, organic cultivation, and CO2 extraction for superior CBD. Kind Farms is turning CBD to a kind alternative to pharmaceuticals. Let's transform Tobacco Row into Hemp Row. If you want to get involved, please reach out. Together, we can make a difference. You can use my code RYAN10 for 10% off. You can find them on Instagram at Kind Farms Inc., all one word. That's KINDPHARMSINC, and their website is kindfarmsinc.com. Once again, my code for 10% off is RYAN10.